Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. Matthew 23, verse 23. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. Okay, so let's stop there for a second. Notice it says the Pharisees and the teachers of the law are hypocrites. Going back to Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, it says that, for I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, that you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. So what are the Pharisees and the teachers of law doing? What they're doing wrong is they're hypocrites. They're paying God mere lip service instead of being precisely moral, instead of being right in a way that no one can deny, that they have no viable counter-argument for. Instead of truly loving God and mankind, to insist on what is precisely correct, what is accurate, what is perfection, to the best of their ability. So some of you might say, well, how do you know what moral precision is, right? You can always be more precise. Well, the answer to that lies in the greatest commandment and the golden rule. The greatest commandment is loving God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your being. So if you love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your being, and you run in the paths of God's commands, and you try to serve God to the best of your ability, okay, you try to be precise, you try to be accurate with your rulings, with your decisions, with your choices. So the driving force, the Lord weighs the heart, the Lord weighs the motives. Is your motive correct? Is your motive pure? Do you have moral clarity? Do you have moral acuity? Do you have moral perseverance? Do you have moral health? Do you have moral maturity? Do you have moral discipline? Do you have moral justice? Precisely moral, perfectly moral justice? Do you choose to do what is exactly right? Or do you fail because you uphold the norms of the world instead of universal pinpointed moral precision? It goes on to say, you give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. So they're giving money, but where's it going? It's going to waste. It's not a cost-effective way, and so it is with their life decisions. It's not justice. If it's not justice, and you're just a clown. If you're not faithful to God, you're wasting your life. What is life without justice? What are decisions without justice? What is romance without justice? What is a career without justice? What is a country without justice? So it says that the Pharisees were guilty of neglecting the more important matters of the law, the more important matters of the law, which are justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Without those things, the Bible is empty. Without those things, life is empty. Without righteousness and justice, one is just a rotten devil, and they're wasting their lives. It says you should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. Then he goes on to say, you blind guides. So when Christ heals people, as a character in the story, it's figurative. He heals them in regards to their lack of mental and spiritual vision. They didn't have the spiritual vision to do what is precisely right. And as such, they failed to be moral. As such, they failed to truly see. And the word vision is a play on words for vise. Vise, Ion. On is Iunu Heliopolis, which is the sun temple in Egypt, where Joseph married the daughter of Potiphar, the high priest of Ra, whose name is Asenath. Okay, so they're blind. They don't have the vision, right? The sun and the moon are symbols of like the eyes. They are God's patterns in nature that reveal that God places a high value on vision. Not only does the sun give you light so that you can see, it is similar to eyes, which tend to have some kind of glow to them in certain circumstances. He says, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, okay, so let's go on to verse 29. But first let me explain the camel. He said, they strained out a gnat but swallowed a camel. And the word camel is the letter C and male scrambled. So how do you see things? You know, are you a righteous person? Are you a righteous man? Joseph, right, he was taken by the Ishmaelites, and they had a camel caravan after he was thrown into a well by his brothers. And he goes to Egypt. Okay, we have the camel and the eye of a needle. It's easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle. Excuse me, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. So you have the camel parallel there. And the Bible uses this pattern and this code. Okay, so I'm going to have to move on from this spot so I don't create too much of a disturbance, even though I don't seem to be disturbing anyone. I like to do things for good measure, especially because I'm persecuted. Let's go to verse 29. It says, "You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. So you testify against yourselves that you are the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Go ahead then and complete what your ancestors have started. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell?" So what is it saying? It's saying that these people and their rituals and why they're paying lip service to God instead of truly loving God. They're saying that if they had lived in the days of their ancestors, they wouldn't have done all those horrible things that their ancestors did. They wouldn't have killed Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, Zechariah the prophet. They're saying that they wouldn't have killed Isaiah in popular culture. He was sawed in half. They said they wouldn't have persecuted Jeremiah, etc. And so he's saying, yes, I know that your flesh is related to him, but when you say it the way you say it with your actions, when you say by your actions that you regret what they did, but you don't truly regret it. What their actions are saying is that they are like their ancestors who killed the prophets, and that they regret that it's like that, but not enough to change. So they testified that they are the children of those who screened out the prophets who had a similar complex and dilemma. Okay, so in the next video, I'm going to give you some interesting points here that are key. I was going to do this video as the last video here, but I'm just going to go ahead and finish up. So, I got fumed a little bit. It's in my throat a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and finish this last part.